Hey everyone, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria, back for another video. Today I wanted to discuss the topic of eating disorders, what I think causes them, and whether or not veganism is an eating disorder itself. So I have personal experience with this because I had an eating disorder myself, and while it wasn't clinically diagnosed, I never had to go to rehab for it because I rehabbed myself. I had all the classic symptoms for anorexia and bulimia back in my late teens to early 20s. And in order to recover from my eating disorder, I actually became vegan. I had been trying to go vegan, but I was never eating enough to stay vegan. And so in my experience, veganism actually aided my recovery immensely. And I think it's because when I discovered it in the form of you can eat abundantly of high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan foods and get super healthy. So I took that and I ran with it and I never looked back. And here I am today, 8 years later, no eating disorder whatsoever, eating abundantly of high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan foods, up to 5,000 calories a day, just purely enjoying life. Now some people probably think that I have a binge eating disorder because of how much food I eat, but that is not the case. I eat regular meals, snacks, it's just a lot of food. And I feel great, fueled up, healthy, satisfied. Now, reflecting back on my past and how my eating disorder came up, this is what I kind of think in general creates the eating disorder. Based on, I think in the DSM criteria, I'm not sure how much they talk about disposition towards eating disorders, if like mental illness is a aspect of it or depression or things like that. But I actually think that while people can be, genetically predisposed to those kinds of things, I think diet and lifestyle play a huge role in the development of mental illness, depression, eating disorders. Not saying that it can cure them in any way. I just think that it can definitely help based on my own experience and the experience of others. So I actually think that, eating disorders in particular develop because of the way we eat in America. I was brought up on a standard American diet, as are most people who live in America, though my mom did a great job of preparing a lot of homemade meals and everything, and people are just doing what they know. And when I left home and I went to college, I gained the freshman 15, freshman 20, I gained weight, and I didn't like it. And I, from there, researched, what am I doing that caused the weight gain and what can I do to get the weight off? And to get the weight off, it was suggested low calorie, low carb, and lots of exercise. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And I did. I lost all the weight and then some. And then I remember being in college and I had to take Lexapro. I developed an alcohol problem. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic. I was just drinking a lot of alcohol throughout, most of my time. I think it was sophomore year of college, I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I was smoking cigarettes periodically. And all of those things were related to each other. I mean, I also think they were a social thing, but I know I was using them to not have to eat that much. But then I was also eating more like high carb foods too. So, but I know that in my mind, it was always like, don't eat too much, don't eat too much, don't eat too much. And then things really started getting bad when I got towards the end of college, and I was purging at that point. And so I'd say I developed kind of a bulimia first. And then after I got out of college, I found out how to really restrict my calories. I started taking like appetite suppressants. I used a lot of stimulants, coffee, things like that. And all the while I'm trying to go vegan because I think that what I'm doing is healthy. So I'm like, oh, I want to be healthy, so I'm not going to eat that much. I'm going to be healthy, so I'm going to go vegan. And then I also, did the whole low carb thing. And I'm trying to think, when I met my husband, what I was doing. I'd quit drinking alcohol when I was 22. At one point I picked up, I was going to the gym a lot with my husband, and eventually that kind of spiraled into, I became raw vegan, and then I thought this whole breatharian thing. So I can see how people group veganism in with as an eating disorder, because generally, if you're thinking about the overall societal notion of weight loss or health, it's based on restriction. And that goes for any kind of diet. And any way that anybody's eating, everybody thinks that the way you lose weight is by restricting your calories. So people eat the standard American diet that inevitably causes weight gain if you're eating an appropriate amount of food. And then people, if they're not happy with their weight, which most people aren't when they're overweight, they want to be at a healthy weight for a number of reasons, whether they have health problems or it's an aesthetic thing. So people then will go on a diet, and when you go in the stores, what you see is, like, at least when I was in the dieting thing, it was Atkins bars, South Beach diet books. The keto diet is still on magazines at the grocery store. Weight Watchers. It was so the way that is acceptable to eat based on what is acceptable for society actually creates customers for the dieting industry. And then those customers, when you go on a diet, that is the beginning of an eating disorder. Whenever you restrict your food intake, whether it's intentional or not, you are at the beginning of an eating disorder. Your stomach muscles will start to atrophy. You won't have as much energy to do exercise. Eventually, it depends on how much you're restricting, but eventually you're going to run into problems related to not eating enough food. So just like myself, a lot of people jump to veganism. Oh, it's going to be easier to cut weight when I'm not eating animal products, which it is. Animal products are not good for the body for several reasons. They're high in fat, too high in protein, contain hormones that encourage weight gain in the body, as well as other things like heart disease and cancer. They're just no good for the human body. So that's why I don't eat them, and that's why I encourage other people not to eat animal products either. But from veganism, people can develop what's called orthorexia, where you only eat certain foods based on whether they're like healthy or not, what is considered to be healthy, just fruits and vegetables. I've done that a number of times, and every time it results in some kind of like problem, whether it's low energy or like mood issues, because you're not getting enough food. I really believe that refined foods play a massive role in the human diet because of the accessibility of their carbohydrates, and that they've played a pivotal role in our development as humans. If you look back in history, when we started eating more of a starch-based diet, what's been documented during that same time is that civilization started to pop up and thrive more among the planet. So to wrap this video up, because I don't want it to be too long, I think it's important to have context where you're defining an eating disorder and veganism, because you have to be able to separate whether that diet is restrictive in terms of calories or it's just restrictive in terms of, animal products, oils, foods that aren't good for the human body. And then even, people can argue about that. Well, this about animal products or this about oils and fats and things like that. All I know is that from personal experience, my health is the best when I'm not consuming fats and animal products. And those are the only things that I restrict in my diet. And other than that, I'm meeting all my nutrient requirements. I'm meeting all of my calorie needs. I have lots of energy. I feel like balanced. And this has been the only diet that I've followed that has made me feel the way that I do, and I'm able to maintain a slim figure while eating all that I want. I mean, isn't that like the ideal situation for people, where you are eating a diet that you can eat as much as you want and stay slim, fit, and healthy? I think that that is what people want. But then when you tell them, oh, you can eat as much carbohydrates as you want, most people are brainwashed to thinking carbohydrates aren't good for you. And that's because most people are getting their nutrition advice from, the diet industry, not necessarily what, it shows based on human cellular metabolism that we require for the bulk of our nutrients and our macronutrients and our needs as humans. So to just sum this up, veganism can be an eating disorder. It can be a scapegoat for an eating disorder. But if you're following a vegan diet based on abundance, the way that I'm raising my children on a vegan diet is how I was raised as a kid. They get 3 meals a day. They're getting lots of different options for food. Today they had waffles and cereal and fruit for breakfast, rice and vegetables and fruit for lunch, and dinner, or they've had lots of snacks. And then dinner, they've had mac and cheese and broccoli. So it's well balanced with all these vegan foods without needing animal foods. And then as an adult, if you have weight that you'd like to have off of your body, then skip the fats. If you need to gain weight or you're looking to maintain your weight, add some fats back in. It's not like this crazy restrict diet. It's a healthy, balanced, normal approach to eating that improves your health over time. I noticed that when I started eating this way, it took a long time to fix what was going on up here in the way that I thought about food, and also fix what was going on in my stomach, because my stomach muscles had atrophied so much that every time I ate food, and my stomach just blew out. And it takes time, just like with any kind of exercise training, to get stronger. It takes time for your stomach to get stronger if you haven't been giving it enough food. So that's it for this video. You need some context with, whether or not veganism is an eating disorder or not. Any style of eating can be an eating disorder when the food quantity in terms of calories are restricted. In fact, when you're talking about protein deficiency, it can only occur when you have a calorie deficiency in the diet. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.